Hello, welcome to Sportsbet TV. This is Paul Alster with you on a very wet, windy, rainy, and pretty grim weekend ahead after a pretty tough week's weather that has taken its toll on racing in Britain. And of course, we had all the shenanigans with the reschedule of racing in Ireland at the Dublin Racing Festival, but eventually we did get some marvellous action. Now, I'm hoping that all racing goes ahead on Saturday. I've got just the one selection for you, and it's in the big handicap hurdle at Newbury 320. If you happen to be finding our channel for the first time, do press the subscribe button just below the screen, and then you'll get all my free advice on selected races for each Saturday's action. And if you're interested in more than one or possibly two selections on occasions, then think about subscribing to my Out in Front service at Patreon, the link for which can be found in the description box just below this screen. Well, it's been tough going for a little while with the big priced runners, but I'm not one to shirk a challenge, and I'm coming back to you for the Newbury 320 race, which, as many of you will know, has had many incarnations over the last 40 years or so, sponsored by a lot of the big betting firms over the years. It's seen some terrific winners of the race, some of whom have even gone on to win champion hurdles. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. This year, it's the 2 mile William Hill hurdle, a premier handicap, soft heavy in places at the time of this recording on Friday lunchtime. 16 runners. I hope they all stand their ground so you all get a proper each way bet without any place reductions. Now, the ground is going to be very, very soft. It may well be proper heavy ground with more rain forecast before they jump away on Saturday afternoon. This is a tremendously competitive handicap hurdle, and although it's only 2 miles, the minimum trip, it's going to place stamina at a premium because the 2 miles is probably going to feel like two and a half. Um, I suggest this is not a vintage renewal. The top weight is Tutti Quanti, trained by very much informed Paul Nicholls. It's rated just 138, and that is quite some way below the top weights that have been carried for many of the recent seasons. Only a couple of years ago, the top weight carried 148. So that suggests that maybe this race isn't quite as competitive as it has been in the last decade. But with the yard in cracking form, Tutti Quanti, who won the Grade 3 Jerry Fielden handicap hurdle in soft ground over the course and distance in November, is one to keep very much in mind for the race. That was his last start. He was off an £8 lower mark, so he has gone up quite a lot. He should be thereabouts, but 12 stone in this ground is going to be tough. Now, as you know, rather like on the flat, where every Saturday for the big handicaps, the bookies are very, very wary of William Haggis. These days, over the jumps, they're very, very wary, and with good reason, of Dan Skelton. He's got a great record in the big handicaps, both over hurdles and fences. In fact, he's got a great record full stop in just about all races. Now, they're taking no chances at all with his very appropriately named Let It Rain, who's a very lightly raced 7-year-old mare. She was a close third behind Dance and Glance, who's trained by Anthony Honeyball, at Ascot on soft ground just before Christmas. And along with the runner-up in that race, All in You, trained by Warren Greatrex, and the close fourth, the hardest geezer, named after himself, for Philip Hobbs and Johnson White, they were the first four home that day and were covered by only a length and a quarter. They're going to take each other on again. So only a length and a quarter covered them, four horses tackling each other once again. Now, All in You has subsequently got his revenge on Dance and Glance at Sandown 5 weeks ago, while the hardest geezer ran well to be fourth in a hot race at Windsor 3 weeks ago, which was won by Hot Stuff, trained by Tom Dascombe, who also is going to reoppose in this race. So while Let It Rain likely has more to offer and could be very nicely handicapped and unexposed, odds of 5 to 2, even 9 to 4 with some firms look very, very skinny in this ground for what looks a very competitive race, even though, as I said, it might not be quite to the standard we've seen over the last decade or two. Now, the novice and Sans à la Vie for Nigel and Willie Twiston Davis is running in a handicap for the first time, gets a mark of 130 after an odds-on stroll on fairly decent ground at Ludlow last time, which told us nothing relative to this race other than that it's fit and well because it was racing the other way round and it was on good ground. Now, it's his previous 3 lengths second to the current Supreme Novice Hurdle leading fancy Old Park Star that catches the eye. Although, whether he's going to handle the muddy conditions is anybody's guess. Lanesborough is trained by Ben Pauling, having a great season, and was impressive when it ran right away with the Doncaster 2 mile handicap hurdle in December. And then it found the combination of a stone higher mark and the step up to 2 miles 5 furlongs just a little too much when a respectable fifth in the Lanzarote hurdle at Kempton 4 weeks ago, which you may remember. Now, it was a soft ground winner last season and has placed on heavy ground too. So Lanesborough, dropping back in trip now, I think could go very close indeed and has a proper chance. Now, there are any number of horses who could run well at big prices. I've got to be honest, I was very interested in Neil Mulholland's Bucephalus, who should relish conditions, is a previous course and distance winner and was a good second on ground quicker than ideal at Haydock in late December. His amateur rider, however, might just be caught out at this level. Old favourites Favois, another for Dan Skelton, and Go Dante, the dual Imperial Cup winner trained by Ollie Murphy, will cope with the conditions and they won't be disgraced, but they will probably, I feel, find a few too good. Now, I'm going to be backing two in this race. And I've already tipped one of my fancies over at Out in Front. While here at Sportsbet, I'm going to suggest to you a little interest each way on a horse called Bubble Doobie, trained by Stuart Edmonds and the mount of Charlie Hammond. And I do think that they've had this race as his target since Bubble Doobie made a wonderful return to racing at Aintree in November. That was his first start for 20 months, so that was a cracking effort after a long absence. I don't think this horse has been the easiest to train. It hasn't had that many races. And given the fact that it'd been off for so long, it was a particularly noteworthy effort. And it might be, knowing that the horse doesn't stand a lot of racing, that connections have decided, to just be patient and wait with the horse, particularly because this horse really does need soft or ideally heavy ground to show his best form. So a lightly raised 9-year-old who loves the ground probably has been safe for the race, despite a career high mark. The fact is, he's only had maybe 10, 11, 12, 13 races. And he isn't a horse who is wholly exposed, in my view. So I think at the 22 to 1 each way for 5 places with Bet365 at the time of this recording, I think you've got to expect Bubble Doobie to run very well indeed. He's my selection. If you fancy the other one that I'll be backing along with him in this race, then as I mentioned earlier, you can check out my selections and sign up and join us over at Out in Front via the link in the description box below this screen. But that's about all for this week. First and foremost, let's hope that the racing survives the elements. Um, at Newbury, at Warwick as well, and elsewhere, and that we're able to see a really good race for the William Hill Hurdle on Saturday. I wish you, whatever you're backing, the very best of luck.